Anybody know if it's on her way?
I've talked with her earlier today and she planned on attending. But I haven't heard from her. Yeah, that's the actual.
Yeah. That's okay. Very low. We're waiting another minute or two to see if the city engineer, Brenda Mockbee, will be here because we need her. She's always needed, but. Is the sign-in sheet gone around? Both of them? Okay. Went this way also?
John's the altar. He's not
Oh.
officer here. John's the altar. It's Chris, you want
And John's here.
to? There he is.
Try to call her one more time. Okay. Oh. Can start with her, can read her.
It's gonna be different.
All right. So what is it, 6:04? I apologize for the late start, but this is the University Heights Service and Utilities Committee meeting. Present today are myself, Chair Sherry Sachs. We have committee members, Councilwoman Weiser, Councilman Chris Cooney, and Councilman John Rock. We also have Mayor Michael Dillon Brennan, Vice Mayor Michelle Weiss, Councilman Brian King, and we have the Law Director Brad Bryan and the Service Director Alan Pennington and Roberta Rubin, our clerk. So thank you to everyone for being here and present and anyone online. What are we on Teams today? Okay, great. So we hope that the city engineer, Brenda Mockbee, will be here soon, but we'll get started and she can jump in when she arrives. Today's agenda item is discussion regarding the CMAQ, Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Citywide Signal Project Proposal. I just want to say that we do have another public meeting that begins at 7, And so we'll have to stick to this hour time slot. And if someone's speaking, we're going to have to wrap it up. And here's Miss Mockbee. Yay. We just got started. So if anyone on the committee has questions, please direct them to Ms. Mockbee directly, so we can get to the heart of what the response is. And I would ask people not to be cognizant of lengthy commentaries. The commenter might need to wind up to get to the point so that we can stick within an hour on this very important project. Okay, so I'd like to start at the beginning like we do with pretty much anything we discuss, which this one, instead of a proposed ordinance, there's an actual ordinance. And it's based upon ordinance number right here, 2017-18, which is approximately 8 to 9 years old, and was signed under the last administration, Mayor Susan Infeld. So just a little summary of where we are till today. On August 1st, I had a discussion with Ms. Mockbee, and I emailed Chief Rogers, and Ms. Mockbee shared a memo that she received from Chief Perko. So we have lots of information from administration on this topic. I sent an email to all council, not just the members, but all council and administration asking for any notification to bring up at this meeting of resident issues. I did receive one response from Councilman Cooney. Thank you. We'll address that tonight, from Vice Mayor Weiss. And I directly received a resident question and concern. And we all received an email late yesterday. Okay, so I'd like to ask Ms. Mockbee if she then wrote a second memo to us, I think August 11th. And if you would please catch us up to date on several things we discussed and what you'd like to share with in this public meeting. Thank you.
Well,
Excuse me,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. The ordinance you referenced, where is that located?
It was on the website. I just
On
Googled
the-
it,
on the-
found it on the web. I can
On the
pass it
city- On
around.
the city website?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And nobody shared it with me. I found it. Okay, please proceed.
okay, so you had some additional questions that you were asking me about. And the one was, how soon does council need to act on this by NOACA? So I did hear back from them, and they would like to know as soon as possible. I explained that you guys are on recess and that you wouldn't be back in session until September 2nd would be your first meeting. They want to know. They want to know if you guys are going to accept the money, or if we're not going to accept the money, then they would look for a letter from the mayor to that effect. So this project is programmed in with NOACA and ODOT for state fiscal year 2027, which that runs from July 2026 to June of 2027. So that means that it needs to be sold to a contractor to go to construction by June of 2027. Doesn't have to be complete in the construction in 27, but it has to be under construction by, usually they say like July 1st of 2027. We can adjust the scope of the project, and that if we do adjust the scope, we still have our funding up to $500,000 of eligible funding for a smaller project.
Thank you very much, first of
Can
all.
I ask a question?
Okay.
You said we still have a ton of money for the project.
Um, $500,000.
Okay, we have 500,000.
Well, the NOACA CMAQ grant is up to $500,000.
Okay. Um, I'm confused. Legitimately, I took a look at the minutes from that, where that ordinance passed. And this might be two different grants. But to my knowledge, council hasn't approved a second grant. And I think the mayor posted something, this was 2018, so this would have been sort of the 2017 potential grant. But the way that Mr. Chuney talked about it in the minutes was that it was for $3 million, but we had a 20% pay. Not that we were getting 500,000 and doing a $2 million job. So I'm confused. I couldn't find anything on the grant. I did ask the vice mayor if she had a copy of it. And I guess we haven't been able to get a copy of the grant to really know what's going on with it.
I asked about the grant application also, but they had something going on today. They weren't able to get it for me. I might get an email tomorrow. So I am not sure exactly how it was presented back in 2020 or 2018 either.
2017. Can you pass that, please? Yeah. Sure.
Here you go.
Ms. Sacks, could I just,
Okay, yes, Vice Mayor.
just also, just a clarification, because it was either Monday or late last week, I asked for a copy of the grants also, so I'm not sure we can make a decision until we actually know between those minutes from 2017, which clearly had, it clearly specified because questions were asked in the minutes, 3 million, and we have to match 27, and now, it's flipped right now. So we want to make the best decision we can, but we really need to know the specifics of what we're responsible for funding.
Okay. I mean, the way that I understand it, it's an 80-20 match
Split or match?
up to $500,000 is what NOACA would provide with this grant. So the chances are that the city would only have to spend, say, $100,000. It might, I mean, that might not be much of a project.
No, that's not
Yeah.
what I'm saying at
Yeah.
all. I just think the minutes clearly reflect something different than what was presented in June. So
Okay.
I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page before we make, this is quite a large expenditure.
No, I understand.
And
Mhm.
we just need to really know what we're dealing with.
Yeah, the
Yeah, just so I-
minutes reflect, if I can, the minutes reflect the statement that actually Mrs. Weiss was on council at that time, that the grant would be 3 millions, and if the city was awarded the funding, it would be responsible 20%. How long would it take to get the funding? Because the discussions regarding the budget would be soon. So there certainly is a little confusion. If this is a match grant, Mr. Chuney did not correct that in the discussion. I don't know if this is a different grant, but if it's a different grant, I haven't seen anything come through that would approve even going out for the grant.
Mr. Pennington.
Okay, if I may, with NOACA, in many instances, they require a jurisdiction to apply for a grant at a particular funding, 3 million, 80% covered by the NOACA grant, to 20% by the community. However, when they do the competitive evaluations and the awards, they will in some cases reduce the amount of the award and cap it at a lower amount. That appears to be what may have happened here in this one here, is it was capped at $500,000 for the city of University Heights.
Yes, Mr. Bryan.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the ordinance that got passed said, you know, again, the project was estimated at $3,200,700. It said that the city would be committing to pay at least 27%. So that was, you know, at least meaning, you know, it could be more potentially. But, you know, 27% was the amount used in the ordinance. It said estimated $872,000. And 8,072 and 140. Estimated number in 2017. So I think what Mr. Pennington's saying is probably what happened.
I think it would be it would clarify things if we had the actual grant application to see what, you know, where this started and then how it ties in. That's the only way we're going to know for sure.
In another part of the minutes, it does note that Mr. Wiseman, who was then on council, commented that the grant isn't as clear because in one section, the city agreed to pay 20% of the cost. And then in another section, it's agreed to pay 27. And again, this apparently was a grant that came to the council because he said there was no study, drawings, pictures, or plans attached to the proposed legislation authorizing the mayor to apply for the grant. So he wasn't comfortable in applying for the grant, that he wasn't sure what the grant was for. Apparently at this point in time, it was procedure, and probably because council has to approve dollar amounts of expenditures, even if they're encumbered for above what the mayor's spending authority is. But according to this, it came for approval to even submit for the grant. And since this was approved to submit in the next council meeting without additional discussion, noted, it certainly was approved for submission, but that nothing further has ever come back to council to allow for any discussion. And once again, we get something where we're up against the gun to pass something, and we don't have the back information that council would need to really make an intelligent decision on it, except that we would then be committing the city of University Heights to pay $2 million.
Vice Mayor Weiss.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Sachs. A couple of questions. So did Ms. Mockbee answer all of the questions that were submitted to you?
So the answer for the deadline, as soon as possible, it doesn't say 60 or 90 days, but in my mind, if we're not ready tonight, we're going to need one more meeting.
Right.
Okay. The second thing is the grant application itself. We don't have that yet. Hopefully she'll have it tomorrow, and that will be able to distribute that to all of us, and we can see really what it is, and it's a no-brainer. And the third thing was if we could modify it, and you've answered that question. Yes, we can, and that will be probably the centerpiece of our discussion.
Okay, great. Then can I ask the police chief if he can talk about signals in general and what his thoughts are? I mean, he's dealing with that every day.
I think
so-
we're going to get there.
Oh,
Okay.
perfect.
I'd like Ms. Mockbee to continue. I'm sorry, Councilman Rock.
I just have a question because you mentioned it's 2 million to the city, but what's South Euclid's share? I mean, for majority of Cedar Road, they share 50%.
So
road.
Ms. Mockbee will answer that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, there's a clear answer.
Yeah, I asked Alan, since service handles the signals, and the city, those are the city signals all on Cedar Road. And so essentially we own them and we maintain them. So there would not be any other community contribution.
It's not like the streets, you know, it's a different, the light is either owned by one city or the other, even though it straddles more than one.
So that
Correct?
Cedar
Is that a good-
Warrensville is all University Heights. The Cedar Warrensville light.
Yes.
It's typically where the signal box is located.
Mhm. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Mockbee, would you continue? Thank you.
Did you,
with your,
Oh,
I'd like you to
well-
clarify what's in your memo.
So the one thing, my estimate is still just an estimate. It's like, don't have plans. We don't have like all the detail as to what would go into it. So you guys are throwing around 2 million as a number. I hope it's 2 million. I hope it's less. But there could be some, fluctuation in that once the project is more defined. We could
So to
get a
that,
more detailed
yes.
estimate.
So to that point, I am going to ask Chief Rogers to come up. He's going to skip the line. Because we had a conversation that was very helpful to me. I have a thing about knowing the whole cost, right? And so while Ms. Bachby did a nice job with this chart, there's missing a column of cost.
I have a revised one, but.
Oh, okay. Great, because what Chief Rogers said is there are several items that are disallowed or ineligible under either part of the split. So this talks about the 80-20. But then there are additional components of traffic signals that will require an expenditure by the city, and that part is missing. If you would.
And just to clarify, what I referenced in the email on August 1st
Yes,
is quoting information that GPD did provide a few years ago.
great.
And the question is that information still current and accurate? And some of the information it did provide a few years ago did contemplate that there would be an 80-20 split on the award, and that certain other expenses, I believe, for design and inspection would not be covered by the award.
That's correct,
That's
yeah.
not accurate? And also, just to reiterate what Brenda and Alan both indicated, my recollection is that when the application was completed in 2017, again, before I was in this position, but following up with GPD in 2018, was that the scope of the project did change. The award amount was reduced. The award in terms of what it could be used for was significantly changed and also minimized to not include anything related to infrastructure. And my understanding is that when they did complete the application in 2017, at that time, it did intend the scope of the project and scope of the grant funding was intended to be utilized for infrastructure, which is really the significant costly elements that involve things like traffic poles, mast arms, and underground wiring and things like that.
So there's an additional expense.
But the
that we don't know.
infrastructure is not covered.
Correct.
And based on what I've read from Ms. Mockby, is that's still the case for infrastructure. It would be
That's
fully
correct.
funded by the city in the memo she recently provided.
Chief, before you go away, and Ms. Mackey. That may explain the difference between what showed as 3 million in the 2017 minutes versus 2 million in what we got this year. If Mr. Chuney was doing some estimating in terms of this additional stuff, but we don't know that because we don't have a packet from Mayor Infeld didn't, I imagine packets were supplied, but they were not posted. So we don't have any packet material. I would assume there would be records somewhere in City Hall, but that's going back 8 years and can be a challenge to retrieve.
And I would also, while I do have the mic, I would like to acknowledge that for public safety purposes, a few components of whatever the improvements are going to be to the signals for our day-to-day operations would definitely like to see improvements to the preemption, the emergency vehicle preemption. What that does is allows us that when we're operating vehicles, police and fire, in an emergency fashion with lights, it activates the signals to change them to allow the emergency vehicles to continue in their intended direction of travel. There's different variations of technology now, whether it's Opticom or AI, where you can even recognize turn signals on emergency vehicles. But those are discussions that would have to occur, at another time once, if it was approved for funding for the project. The other component that we would like to see also is the vehicle detection. Currently, there's loop detection at intersections, which is older technology. It's very problematic when there's resurfacing or any type of construction on roadways where they're easily damaged for a variety of reasons. And it usually takes a few $1,000s and some time to schedule to try to replace the damaged detectors in the roadway. A lot of newer technology utilizes different types of cameras to recognize vehicles. Also things like bicycles and motorcycles aren't picked up through the loop detection in the ground. So that creates some issues as well. But those two components would definitely be public safety elements of this project that we would like to see improved.
Thank you. Before I give the mic over to Ms. Weiser, I want to make it very clear. I valued the discussions we've had, and I support all the requirements and the need from both Chief Rogers and Chief Perko. And so we want to support our safety forces and our emergency vehicles to the greatest extent possible. I will say that everybody knows it's not we have a limited budget. We have major projects before us also that impact safety response, including the road program. If there are potholes, and other structural problems, that's going to impede our emergency vehicles from getting to where they need to go. We have our facilities structures, which we need for our safety forces. We have some very costly things that are also part of the equation to support our emergency and safety. So the thing that I'm hearing that I'm very encouraged by is one thing we didn't say, I don't think, so forgive me if I'm, that we can apply every other year. It's every other year for implementation on the alternate year. So if we look at this whole project and anything else that we think is important that falls under CMAQ, which we'll bring up a little later, we can perhaps plan this out. So rather than bite off the whole chunk at once at the expense of any of those other things I mentioned, we may be able to say, okay, at some point we can improve this much this year. Let's apply next year in 26 for 27. Let's apply the next year and have everything together. So that's something I'd like the committee and to everyone to think about. Ms. Weiser, thank you.
Chief, you bring up an excellent point in terms of technology change with smart cities. The smart city technology now allows for almost wireless control of those signals. I'm sure what we're working with here, and Brenda, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is not to that level of technology.
Right. I don't
Okay.
believe so. I haven't asked those questions, but
Okay. Things changed from 2017. We're talking about something that started 8 years ago. And 8 years ago, the technology has just jumped tremendously. And you're right, Chief. I think some of the things you mentioned didn't exist in 2017 or were not as workable as they are today that would justify the additional cost for them. I don't know if really sitting down and instead of trying to take 2017 ideas and fund it and do it and spend that kind of money, and then in 5 to 10 years be sitting here going, we shoulda, coulda, woulda. And I mean, I don't know how much additional some of that stuff would cost. When you go whistles and bells, it goes up. But how much it goes up also depends upon how much the technology has been in use, and it has been in use. So it's not new anymore. Most of that stuff now is, yeah, we can do that. That's no problem. So maybe we also need, if we don't jump with this now, maybe we really need to sit down and look at moving ahead but moving ahead with technology that fits 2025 forward rather than 2017.
Vice Mayor Weiss.
Yeah, thank you. So I just want to ask Ms. McAfee and the chief, just so everyone's clear. So the original grant is 2,067,000. We would be reimbursed or whatever, 500,000, but there's an additional 560, around $500,000 with all of the infrastructure piece where it says local cost in that one grid. Is that correct? Am I reading that spreadsheet
Out of
correct?
my spreadsheet?
Yeah. It looks like there's another $500,000 above the 2,267,000.
Oh. Where are you looking?
So
On
I'm
this?
looking at the
I
email
don't see
where
that.
it says local costs.
Yeah.
So for every street light, there's, at the beginning, there's an extra 10,000 and then
That's
some of the
split.
the bigger ones.
Isn't that our match in that third column?
Well,
So the
well,
total
origin-
bottom is both the reconstruction and the improvements. So that the bottom is combining the two subtables.
so my
the
question
subtotals.
is, when we're saying additional infrastructure cost, does this not even cover that at all,
No,
that local
It
cost?
includes that.
It does include it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just a little
Ineligible?
confused.
Yeah. In this, what you're looking at, it's under the local cost.
That's what I thought.
Oh,
Okay.
So we're saying, where we're looking to put new mast arms and,
We have another 10,000 that we have. to pay.
well, the total cost would be the 275,000
Yeah.
per signal.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that's not, okay. You just split them out so we could see the local cost versus the.
Yes.
They're split fine. Okay, so the complete project, if everything was done, we would owe $2,067,000, correct? Around,
Give or take.
but again, it can be adjusted, it can be, the scope can be adjusted. Okay, great, thank you.
is there anything more you'd like to add, Ms. McAfee?
Well, the one thing that I do want to tell you, applying for the grant, like every cycle. So right now, if we don't take the money at all, the next time we apply for the grant, if it's in the next cycle, we'll be like penalized because it's on a scoring system. So there is a category that talks about, if you've applied and put that money into a project. If you downsized your project, you get half the points. If you totally gave back the money, you get 0 points for like one cycle. So just,
That's good information. It's unfortunate that
Yes.
we didn't see this in these past 3.5 years. I'm.
Just a second, if I can just follow up,
Yes.
the downsizing, what is that?
like if we change the scope, like,
Right, I
okay,
understand, but to what degree? Because I guess we're allowed to make adjustments, but how much?
yeah, I
Downsizing.
don't have it quantitative, like they didn't say dollar amount or percentage amount. They just said minor and major.
Ms. San?
Yes, Mr. King.
Thank you. So in reviewing the list and the two subtotals here, and then the information that for the replacements, they don't appear to be reimbursable at all for CMAQ funding.
Well, it would be essentially whatever would be covered in the signal improvement, like would be covered in the reconstructions. So say maybe 40, like the $40,000 worth in
I see.
this table. Since I used up all, the 500,000, I didn't show it all the way
Right.
down.
Yeah, so just going back to how it broke things down at our special council meeting last month, I honestly see this as two different projects. It all looks like great work that would benefit the city. And I know we've received complaints about some of these, a number of these lights that are under the reconstruction area, but with all this funding that can be applied towards the improvements.
It could,
Or,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, we can complete 16 intersections at a quarter of the cost of the total budgeted or total amount that's here. If we take out the reconstruction ones, the cost is just so much higher on the reconstructed portions of them. I think that we can obtain great results and, honor the intent of the CMAQ funding if we just pursued the signal improvement list, the 16 intersections there, and then perhaps make some tactical alterations to some of the other intersections and seek additional funding in the future. That's still my stance from the last meeting, and I think that would be our best way forward at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman King. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Sacks. So yeah, at the last council meeting, we did ask specifically about adjusting the scopes to see if we can split it. I'm sorry, Chief Rogers, if you can come up one more time. Do you have any priorities? Like if we did just split out the smaller intersections, would that help you? Would that hurt you? Like, can you give us a little background what you feel that needs to be done?
So I will preface with, I'm not a traffic engineer, but what I can say is when corridors of roadways, and correct me if I'm wrong, are updated and are timed together, whether it's a stretch of Cedar Road or Warrensville or the intersections that they meet, it allows the actual upgrades to interact with each other in terms of being able to communicate with each other, the timing of the lights that go up and down a corridor, also things like preemption, detection, all that when they're done as a group and in a corridor, that really improves, in my perspective, traffic flow and emergency vehicle response.
Elaborate on that. So I think I found that enlightening, preemption. Could you give the example you gave me?
So the current technology we have now for preemption, a lot of it doesn't work. It just needs to be updated, to say the least, but it's based on what's considered an audible type of solution for preemption. So that requires us to actually activate our sirens, where we get various service calls on a regular basis, whether it's an alarm, a holdup alarm, a domestic in progress, where we don't necessarily want to alert with emergency sirens if we don't have to. We'll use obviously our lights and other safe driving tactics to get to where we need to. But if with the current technology, if we're activating our sirens right outside of a bank just to get the preemption going, it can be problematic. So again, with updating that older technology to things like Opticom and other solutions, that allows other more efficient ways to utilize preemption. But as was just recently indicated, it is kind of, I guess, can be considered two different projects where if, all of the improvements were done, it would definitely capture a lot of the timing, the communication, things like preemption in an entire corridor of roads, like on Cedar or Warrensville. But again, I'm not a traffic engineer. I would defer to the professionals on that. But
And-
that's just based on my observations and awareness from talking over the years with the traffic engineers.
And Chief, when you say corridors, you mean the main intersections?
A quarter, meaning the
Cedar
entire
Road.
length of a roadway of a county road.
Cedar,
Cedar.
Warrensville,
Yes.
Taylor.
As opposed to
Those are the
one
three.
light, not the other light, one
Yeah.
light, not the other light. So it's a corridor,
Yeah. So if you're
correct?
picking in, cherry picking signals on Cedar,
Okay.
what is that really doing to enhancing
And,
these improvements?
and do you know if South Euclid, Cleveland Heights, Beechwood and Shaker have any updated signals at this point?
Beechwood does. I believe they may have a solution that acknowledges turn signals, some of the AI type solutions. They may have Opticom. I'd have to double check. South Euclid currently, I think their system is similar to ours, needing a lot of improvements and repairs and old technology. In Cleveland Heights, I'm not certain at this time. I could double check though.
Okay, yes, and then Mr. King, and then I would like to make a comment.
Sure. So yeah, speaking to corridors, I mean, 13 of the 16 improvements or intersections are on Cedar. All of the, that's all the traffic lights are on Cedar. And then the three others on the improvement list are the three lights closest to Cedar on Warrensville Center Road. From a coordination standpoint, I think that would yield significant benefits. And then speaking of, the two different main corridors through the city, Cedar Road is obviously a huge artery into the city of Cleveland and Cleveland Heights and University Circle, all of that. Warrensville Center Road, I don't have the exact numbers on it. We've discussed how the traffic numbers have been reducing on that road. I think that having this on Cedar would be great. I do have, no, I'll yield. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Just a question.
Yes.
So where it is designated in red as a
Yeah.
traffic signal reconstruction, so that's focused on obviously the infrastructure, the signals. I just have a question for Brenda. Would that also include the expenses for the improvement in addition to? Because,
Yes.
okay, so that's,
Yeah. it's
so even if they are read as a reconstruction, that pricing would still acknowledge that they would be improved as well.
Right, for reconstruction is an improvement.
But I mean, in terms of the components
Oh,
inside the
yeah.
box. So what's on, I guess, what would that be, page 3 or 4?
Right.
The cost estimates of the
It's
actual
all included.
improvements.
Right.
Yeah.
So that-
Reconstruction covers those separate improvement prices too, right?
Yeah, so that's what I said, and I do have a revised estimate that shows there are some eligible components to the reconstructions, but the big costly things are not eligible. So.
Thank you. That was very insightful and helpful. And I think that, I don't want to speak for Chief Perko, but the emergency, what I understood from the memo is to have that, consistency down the corridors to be able to respond to emergencies. And just to expound upon what Councilman King said, in my mind, Cedar connects to university hospitals and Cleveland Clinic and to Hillcrest and to all the, not just for University Heights, but the other cities that are trying to get to where they need to be. Correct? Yeah, okay. Then I have a few more things I want to say.
I could just add to that.
Yes,
if I could.
please.
Thank you. Obviously, there's a lot of improvements that need to be considered. A lot of money that needs to be considered to be approved and probably not enough money to do all of it. So what I'm hearing the discussion is a lot of strategic analysis. And really that was why I provided the memo, was just so that for strategic planning purposes, you can have all the information. Chief Rogers explained all the preemption stuff pretty well, and that does include getting down into the main arteries of all the cities for the hospitals, but it also ties into the intersection that not only the fire departments house that we respond out of emergently, but so many city employees respond out of non-emergently all day
Right.
with that city hall apron coming out to Silsby at that intersection there. So I'd be remiss without bringing that up at this time for further consideration. I know we have new facilities and we're looking at different sites and things like that, but Gordon Graham's a well-known risk manager, and his famous motto is, if it's predictable, it's preventable. And it's very predictable that that intersection is going to cause some type of very hazardous accident to occur. We've had countless close calls on a regular basis. And, we had GPD analyze that back in 2018, and it doesn't seem like, especially with moving forward with new technology, that would be that hard of a situation to fix or enhance.
Well, thank you very much, both of you. And we'll definitely have to take that into consideration. So I want to just summarize a couple of things. First of all, I was thinking the same thing. I'm glad that we're having that discussion to point out about the corridors, that perhaps that is here and now. And when we get all the information, that may be the scope. Okay, but I do want to talk a minute about the reconstruction. One reconstruction signal is at the corner of Washington and Fenwick. Now, that's a traffic signal that was a block away from a school at Northwood. The school no longer exists. And I wonder if we need not only not a reconstruction, but maybe not even a traffic signal at all. And I'm wondering if a traffic study could be done, if that's the same type of intersection that poses the same type of danger that it did 8-10 years ago. Okay, that's number one. That could be a cost savings and also more sustainable. It's less electricity that would be used. The second thing is, as we do our facilities structure and looking at that as holistically, that intersection at Warrensville, Silsbee, Washington, yes. It may be big enough for a traffic circle. And I say that because CMAQ covers traffic circles. In my research and due diligence, I noticed that that's a possibility. Again, I don't know, I'm not, an engineer or a traffic, and I would want input from safety forces at some point on how that would work with them. I know there are other cities across the world that I've seen traffic circles with emergency vehicles, so I don't know. But again, if that is an option, what's the trade-off cost? That could be aesthetically phenomenal, literally the center of our city having a beautiful traffic circle, and that would mitigate some of the issues with managing the traffic there. Something to think about, and sustainable. It wouldn't, cut out the electricity needed. So that's just a thought, okay? And then another one is a reconstruction at the circle at Fairmount near John Carroll, right, in Warrensville. What are they doing? Like, what makes sense there? Is that going to stay the same? Do we look at their big project and see how perhaps something different may be more cost effective and appropriate? I don't know. There are huge things going on in our city. There may be other options. And to Councilwoman Weiser's point, what was great for our application 8 to 10 years ago, you wrote the application before the ordinance even came up, may require a better fit for what we know in 2025. Ms. Weiser, thank you.
I just have a question. We're all focused on one grant. Are there other grant opportunities that we could apply to these things?
Well, possibly.
I know, I sort of get you.
I mean, I
Oh,
think
but-
one thing that you might have used in the past and still is available is Ohio Public Works Commission.
Mhm.
They offer both grant and
And
30-year,
low
no
loans, yeah.
interest loans. I know other cities use those.
Mhm.
So that would be an application for next
Right.
summer.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
those are I think. All right. We're looking at something that started out in 2017, and like all things that start out, and you got it, you just keep carrying it and carrying it and carrying it. There are other opportunities today, some of which may be going away, some of which may continue. The other piece of this is how sure are we that we have $2 million? And I think that becomes an extremely valid question because of, number one, a number of things that our safety forces get used to come out of FEMA grants. And since FEMA is no longer, is that money also gone away with that? We're going to have impacts to our budgets because we really don't consider two things. Number one, we had some federal funding that came our way. But the second thing is the cuts from the feds to the state are going to cause a roll off into the cities. And we're saying, oh, good, we'll commit to a $2 million project at a moment in time when we are unsure of the other impacts of that. And then we have to really look at wants and needs. I personally have difficulty until we look at the road survey, because that's clearly going to tell us what we really need money-wise to get our roads fixed. And I'm not sure how our residents would embrace signals being fixed and roads not being repaired. It's a practical question. It's a difficult question. The second thing also is, with a lot of grants, yes, oh boy, we get $500,000. But it requires a $2 million commitment on the part of the city. Yeah, let me,
20%,
pardon?
20%. You're talking about the entire project.
My understanding is the overall cost is $2,567,000.
If we took everything on this list, if we just did signal improvements, it would be approximately 500,000, we have the $500,000 from the CMAQ funding, and then $700,000 from the city. We would be able to get most of the project scope completed at a fraction of the complete cost that is in front of us today.
I would have to see the dollars.
They're in front of us, right?
I know the dollars estimates are in front of us, Councilman King, but I would have to see what was selected and how the estimates fit. At this point in time, if we were to approve this, we are committing the city to $2,067,000 as is what's in front of us. Am I not correct?
If we took exactly what is in front of us, but we can choose to do something different.
Well, then perhaps we need to see what the different things are that we're doing first.
The first page.
Okay. But let's hear the argument for the first page only.
Okay, so I think we only have about 7 minutes left or so. I'd like to just say that the roads program is part of our safety program as well. It's, you have to have clear roads for our emergency vehicles to be able to function properly. So and in addition to affecting every residential street. Okay, I wanted to just bring up quickly Councilman Cooney's question and a question from a resident. Councilman Cooney was asking about the light at Green Road in Heinen. Since that's a reconstruction, it doesn't sound like we're talking about that right now.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Sachs. If we were to reduce the scope and look at the improvement, then yes, I would agree. We would not be talking about it.
Okay.
And, with the dollars, especially hearing from, Chief Perko and Chief Rogers and the overall, we're looking at dollars here. It seems to be, well, it makes sense. And although I'd love to see something done with that particular light, it seems to be a greater benefit if we were to reduce the scope of the project. I understand a few points may come off at the next cycle. I get it, but that's one cycle.
Right.
These things are not going to go away. And we could provide a greater good at probably a dollar value that we're probably a little more comfortable moving forward with. Thank you, Mrs. Sachs.
Thank you. And the issue brought up by the residents on several times now is the traffic signal at Cedar and South Belvoir, which is up for just an upgrade. As someone tries to cross the street into South Euclid, there isn't enough time to cross the street with the way that it's structured right now, especially for people who are Sabbath observant. We do have an example of where a traffic light is timed for those types of observances without, as far as I know, any issues. And I'd have to ask the chief at some point about accidents and incidents at those places. But crossing from East Carroll over Green Road has that type of timer, and that light belongs to Beechwood. So that's an example, but it works, and it could work at this other intersection if we proceed with updating that particular traffic signal to look into that as well. Okay, are we at, I think what we need to do with just a few minutes remaining is have another Service and Utilities Committee meeting before the next, if possible. Before the next, I would like in September, I think is more realistic than before September 2nd. If NOACA it's okay to have it before, because September 30th or thereabouts would be 90 days after the beginning. That seems like it's usually 60 days or 90 days or 100 days. There's some sort of grace period. So if that is acceptable, I think we've discussed a lot tonight, and we could really get I think what we're saying is, and the committee, please correct me if I'm wrong, we'd like to look at the corridors in terms of just, and the wording is to just update. Please correct me with the wording. It's not the whole reconstruction,
It's the, excuse me,
the
the
improvement,
improvement portion,
improvement.
and
There's another
remove
word.
it with less the reconstruction.
Correct.
Like,
And I expect the answer council would want answered is the full 500,000 still available? If the project
Yes.
Is reduced to that extent, knowing probably it would be points. It is? Yes.
Phenomenal. Okay, so I will do a doodle poll as soon as possible. And I would appreciate if we could have that portion really pinpointed. We could really zero in on that. And it will correspond with perhaps getting even the original grant application. We'd like to see that anyways. And if we don't have it, NOACA has it, somebody has it. Because that's what the award would be based upon. Does anybody have any final questions or comments if I misunderstood? Okay. Okay, want to thank everybody.
How
The
about a
meeting,
motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, thank you. We are adjourned.
Aye.
6:58.
Got the vote,
Thank
bud.
you.
It's over.
All those in agreement. You really want to stay? Brian said no.
He was.
Just
I'm
joking.
not on the committee.
All those in agreement.
He's a committee member, or no?
All right, thank
John
you.
Rockets, that's right.
Thank
There
you.
we go.
Aye.
Thank you.
There we go.
I'm just too hot. It's just melting. I apologize. Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, goes on, yeah. It's usually blinking in the morning. Doesn't blink at night though. Till really late.
It just needs to be, that's, even if it doesn't give.
Needs to be, I think, yeah.
Please. Try to say, yeah, so just